So I'd like to introduce you to Cheri Honderd. And one of the amazing things that we're going to talk about at Cheri's story is that God's work sometimes starts in funny places. Why don't we hear a little bit of what it is that God has done through what would be a normal person. Nothing special, just trying to be obedient. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I'd love to first start out with just a family picture, just to give you an idea of this family of mine that has, we had 4 kids, we now have 10 grandkids, and they have supported me through various ministries. And I also just wanted to point out, there are 5 Calvin grads up there. There are 2 Davenport grads up there. There are 2 Grand Valley grads up there, Zero Hope. But even my youngest, at the earliest age, they know 2 words, go blue. So, so that's who our family is. And I just wanted to show that because truly, when you step out in faith, it's a family ordeal as they've come around and supported us. And I am here, I sit here today because of difference makers in my life. I think each of us can say that as we think back on maybe who has impacted us, who has spoken truth over us, life over us when we were at our lowest points. I was raised in a home where my mom worked 2 jobs as a cashier. My dad had a lot of difficulty. He couldn't keep a job, and if I look back now, I realize he probably had some mental health issues that it wasn't discussed back then. And I never really had a relationship with my dad. But my mom always took us to church. And I remember as a little girl feeling so at home in church. And this difference maker has no idea what I'm about to share with you now. But I remember feeling so loved. I struggled in school. I struggled relationally. And I still remember sitting in an adult service and hearing the gospel and walking down an aisle and kneeling and praying and asking Jesus into my life. I knew I needed him even though I was a child. And all of a sudden, and I was crying, and all of a sudden I looked up because I felt a hand on my shoulder. And I looked up and I saw a man praying over me, and he was crying too. And that image that I had of Jesus in this man as a child has never left me. That hand that I felt on my shoulder, I still feel today, even when I still go through struggles. He has never left me, and so I am today very passionate about how can we go. Lately it's been to kids who can't control what's going on in their family. They can't control the food that's in their pantries. They can't go to the grocery store. But more importantly, do they see Jesus? I'm sure many teachers show Jesus, but that is where my passion is. How do we go and bless? And I have a deep passion for everyone in West Michigan to know of Jesus, because even as a little child, when I left that night, none of my problems went away. But I had Jesus. And my friends, that is the hope that fuels me and wants me to keep going. So through my life, I've done ministry. As young as 18, I was up and moved to the inner city of Philadelphia to work in an inner city place called Teen Haven. I was the only one that looked like me, but I learned so much of my first big step of faith. And after that, I went into school for social work, did some social work, was a stay-at-home mom for about 16 years, and then went back into ministry through Kids Hope USA, but also began taking classes to become a pastor of the Reformed Church of America. And then during that time, Hand2Hand was formed. So if we can, how many of you have heard of Hand2Hand? Does anyone here volunteer or your church? Thank you. You're the reason that we can do what we do. And it's been a transition season for me because in May, I said to my husband about May 1, I said, as I look at the new school year, I'm wondering, is it time for me to step down? And I asked him and I prayed the month of May separately, Didn't tell anybody else, and we both came at the end of May with the same conclusion. And so I hate the word retired because you're never retired, right? But I've recently stepped down as executive director of Hand2Hand. And now it feels sometimes like maybe I'm not making as big of an impact feeding kids on the weekend when we finished last school year with 10,365 kids in 273 schools. I knew what I was doing. But now, I wake up in the morning and I say, Lord, who do you want me to bless today? Who are you going to put in my path today? Because I remember the man who never knew he made a difference in my life. Probably took just a few minutes. He could have prayed over an adult. He prayed over me. And those little things matter as much as the big.
So, starting from today, working backwards, how in the world does one get to 10,635 kids?
Oh, golly. A lot of work. So I started it in 2008 with the help of my church. There were just 3 of us that were volunteers, and I asked for $1,000 from my pastor. I was on staff at Fairhaven Church in Jenison. And I'd heard about kids going hungry and had talked with the principal, hey, how can we help as a church? What can we do? Because especially on Monday mornings, they were seeing kids coming into school, acting out, not listening, able to listen, just hungry. And teachers who were also financially struggling with the recession were purchasing additional food to feed them. And I'm like, there's no excuse for this. We as a church, we can come beside these kids. And so that's really, and it all started with prayer. Praying Ephesians 3:22 through 21, believing God could do immeasurably more, because I wanted to feed the kids, but more importantly, I wanted to share and shine who Jesus is. More importantly, I wanted the people at the school, whether they worked there or went to school there or they were picking up their kids there, to realize who our great God is. I wanted that more than anything. Feeding kids was important, but my main desire and motivation was so that God would be glorified and He would be seen.
So, if I remember from talking earlier when we first met, there was this 19 kids that you didn't know what to do with in a place of panic. And how did you navigate that journey?
Yeah. So when we started this program, it's so funny because I actually have a slide of what was written in my prayer journal at the time, and it was about fear. And this is a legitimate, this shows you where my state of mind was, okay? It basically says, I'm worried and afraid of this weekend backpack food thing. I'm not sure how to set it up, how many will benefit from it, and who will volunteer for it. Lord, I pray for your clarity and guidance. And again, I took what I had, just a little bit, just said yes and stepped in, and was dependent on God to do everything else. And so we developed a program. I worked really with the principal of that school, which, side note, that relationship with the principal, she was really hard to connect with. I don't believe she was a believer, but as I was going in, I was overseeing and mentoring Kids Hope USA, another amazing organization. I was overseeing mentors going into that school and just really couldn't connect with that principal. And so a year prior even to God laying on my heart to start this ministry, I felt like so discouraged. I thought, we just want to come alongside and help you, school. We'll bring in food for the staff. We want to encourage you. Again, a recession and things it was difficult. And I remember the verse came into my mind, let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablets of your heart, then you will find favor with God and man. So I thought, I'm just going to love and be faithful. So every day I thought, I'm just going to love and be faithful. And lo and behold, a year later, when the recession hit, kids were hungry for the first time. I sat down with the principal and I said, could your students benefit from weekend food? And we developed this plan. But it was always team. I believe in team. I'm a huge collaborator. So even at the beginning, I'm walking around at staff asking different people, well, how should we do this? What do you think about this? So it was really a group effort from day one. And then today now, we are in our own building, which is another miracle, purchased it 2020 of COVID. when right before December 2020, and we were debt-free within 8 months. Again, God, you cannot outgive God, and He is so generous when you're walking in His will and want to shine His love and light. But yeah, it all started way back then. Just a little cabinet with 19 kids. Today we have 148 churches who partner with us, and that was the model. As people started to come to me, how can I do what you're doing? And literally, it might have been a principal who went to their Kids Hope person and said, how can I do this? Again, making it scalable and sustainable, partnering a local church, similar to what Kids Hope USA does, with that school made sense. And yeah, we literally didn't form as a nonprofit till about 2011.
So what were your biggest challenges and failures along the way? Because I know that you didn't start out with the idea of, hey, let's take this tiny little bit of 19 people, little humans, and take those and go to 10,000. We didn't, 10,000 sounded impossible, 19 sounded overwhelming.
Yeah.
What were your biggest experiences and failures along the way?
Yeah. Well, obviously, when you grow at the percentage that we grew at, you are going to have problems. We grew, if you look at the 15 years that I was in place at Hand2Hand, on average, we grew 50% a year. Last year, we grew 25%, but you got to imagine space, just trying, food warehouse space. How do we support our churches? Because we're big about supporting churches. That's who we want to be seen, not Hand2Hand necessarily. We want the Church of Christ to be seen as being full of compassion and love. So we had those kind of logistical things, and I am a dreamer. It's who I am. I don't like details. You can ask anyone I've ever worked with. I'm like, let's do this, figure it out. And some of my failure was in realizing a lot of people that are organized and that doesn't work well with them. They need more time, they need more strategy, it's stressful to them. And so I think for me, learning how to be strategic, because I did fail often in terms of maybe just being reactive, right? I'm so quick to say yes. Oh, there's a school over here with 400 kids. Yeah, we can do that. I mean, that's just what I do. You can ask my team. A couple of them are here today. And they look at you like, how are we going to start feeding 400 more kids? I don't know, but so they had to deal with that. A lot of visionaries are like that, I'm told. But there have been times when I wish I wouldn't have reacted in a way that I did. And I've been flat on my face before God, before speaking sometimes and saying, God, I can't do this. I've said before out loud when things were overwhelming, I created a monster and I don't know what to do. I mean, literally, I had to go to God for everything. And I think that's what is beautiful about this. It's just like we just give God the little that we have, like the boy with the 5 fish and 2 loaves. Just a little, and look what Jesus does. And that's so true. I had a verse up there, God created you to be a difference maker, but one of my favorite verses is, for we are God's workmanship. Some versions say masterpiece. And as I look out in this room and I see some women, I see some men, it's maybe thought of women are prone to this more than men, but in this day and age, do you believe that you are a workmanship of God? I mean, do you truly believe you are a masterpiece? Because you are. And God can take the smallest that you have, and in faith, as you step out and give it to Him, He will use you. It's not that He might use you, He will use you. And He has created, I think the beauty of this is, the man who prayed over me, he didn't know that, but God created the good works for me to do. It says that in Ephesians 2:10. And He tells us to walk in them, to step in them. And I don't think I have, and probably you haven't, stepped into every good work that God has for us. But that's what we're called to do. And I don't want to miss any of those things. And so I think about how God ordained for that man to pray over me. and how he knew he had created me to start this work of being the hands and feet of Jesus to kids, of speaking his message wherever I go in the story of multiplication of food. Again, we started with 19 kids, 3 volunteers. Today we are at, in May we are at 10,356 kids. I just looked at the website since I'm retired. That's actually already at 11,500. Because there was things going on, obviously, in the spring and fall, or spring and summer as we plan to launch. This is a ministry of God, and it's a ministry of people. It's everyone being as passionate about it as the next person, and they just want to jump in and make a difference for kids. And it's been interesting to meet kids. We have prayed specifically things like, and as our churches pray, that's our main focus, as they pray for the students, we have prayed things, Lord, show them your love. Show them that you see them, that you know them. Would you bless this child with joy as they look at this food? And so I hear stories of a preschooler who told their teacher that, or the preschool teacher told me that every weekend, every Friday, when this little girl gets her bag of food, she hugs it. I hear stories of a little boy who discovered his bag of food for the first time. It's 10 to 12 items. This isn't like a box, this isn't like a pizza, right? This isn't like, whoa, McDonald's, or holds it up as kids are coming in from the playground. Kids are all in the hallway, and he's yelling, it's a miracle, it's a miracle. And I hear a student that runs to his teacher, and immediately, after he's discovered his bag of food, says, somebody really loves me. Do I believe in the power of prayer? I was saying, dream big, pray bigger. That's my saying through the years. And if I can do anything, it's to encourage each of you to do the same. Because he really does take the little that we have and multiplies it and exponentially blesses when that is our heart's desire. There's different ways. I don't know if I should just go ahead with the difference maker. Somebody already mentioned the Good Samaritan. These are ways that we see Jesus. A difference maker will have this come into their life. First of all, you'll be moved to action. You won't just feel compassionate. It's okay to feel sorry or empathy, but you're moved. You want to act. It will cause an interruption, a disruption in your life. This has not been easy as we've grown and exploded, and we continue just to go, I remember the first time we heard we were in every school in Ottawa County, early childhood through high school. The next one is Kent County. We're close. We're in 8 counties now. It's not different. It's not. It does take an interruption. It will shift your focus from self to another, and you will have to sacrifice. Again, we see that in the life of Jesus, don't we? And so I also just wanted to share how to make a difference, if that's okay. We're kind of not going on script here. I'm sorry.
It's okay. If life went on script, then rule number 18 for me is nothing ever goes to plan, leaving God in control.
There you go. And I believe that about you. I met Eric just a few months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, and I do believe that about you. When you say that, that's accurate. I would just like to encourage everyone to how to be a difference maker, how to truly live into it, and basically just pray and believe every day. Every morning when you're laying in bed, Lord, what do you have for me today? Who do you want me to touch with your love? Sometimes we speak it. Sometimes we just show it. So would you pray and believe for that, and then listen and watch. Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. There are so many hurting people out there. We recently had interviewed some of our Hand2Hand families and asked them to describe what their current situation was like. So again, these are families that are receiving weekend food for their students because times are tough. Some of the words: struggling, surviving, chaotic, lonely, paycheck to paycheck, homeless, hungry. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But my friends, that's who we pass. Maybe not in this room today, but when we leave and we're in the grocery store, even when we're in church, we go to pick up our kids in the school, that's who you're passing. So look for who God wants you to bless in the moment. And then step into those good works. Don't miss them. I've missed, I'm sure, a lot of them. Move. Take the courage. Have the faith. Trust me, it does take courage when we kept growing and growing and, oh, Lord, did I need him? And I told him all the time. And that's where he wants us to be. He wants us to be weak. Really, if you think about that, we're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be super, have it all together. However, the Bible tells us differently, right? When we are weak, he is strong. And his power is made perfect in our weakness. So those are just a few things.
Awesome. Well, one of the things I love about Cheri is, like all of us, just ordinary. A small calling that didn't look like much. The next 2 or 3 little bits of videos are all themed to the same way. Notice it, just an ordinary person with a sling and a rock, with $1,000 and 19 kids, with the problem of a hole in the wall. It doesn't make any difference. God often prompts us to work, and it's just wrapped up in funny wrappers that look like impossible situations. That doesn't make it any less of an opportunity. Cheri has a table here. It's not in the normal row. She's asked for it to be around the corner, and it's around the corner for a purpose. She would like to take and not just have you walk by, but she'd like, if you're interested, she'd like you to stop by, pull up a chair, and talk. And her booth is specifically set up so that you can go over there and just talk to her. Ask her a story. Get in depth. I don't know where our QR code is for that.
Yeah. And the reason for that is, as a woman especially, in my early 30s, late 20s, I had no self-worth, literally. And I would have to hang up verses in my house. You are a child of the one true King. You are the light of the world. And so if there are any people, men or women, who just need to be spoken into and prayed over, I'd love to do that.
Amen. As we step into, I hope that through this process of today's conference, that you don't walk away and say, wow, that was a really great conference. But you hear a word from the Lord and say, I know what I need to do next. Maybe it's hand-to-hand. Maybe it's a number of, maybe it's your next door neighbor. I don't know. I think Matt Scogan wrapped it up the best. No book, no video, no something is ever going to substitute for praying about, Lord, what it is that you'd like me to do next, and stepping into that. Our next video is from my friend, Dick Greenlee. He's going to tell a story of what appears to be an impossible situation that's turned into something powerful. In the meantime, could we all say thank you to Cheri?
Thank you.